The homeschool world is abuzz with the new school year. Can you feel the excitement? I know that I can. But there's a challenge as you plan for this year that homeschool moms often forget in the newness, in the excitement, in just the glitteriness and the sprinkles and just the feeling of just looking forward to the year and all of these plans that we have. And so in that newness, we forget there's going to be a challenge, and challenges are going to come this homeschool year. Your future self thanks you for being proactive right now. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where we talk anything and everything homeschool and all that encompasses the homeschool lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Nguyen. I'm a mom who never intended to homeschool, and suddenly I am here, 14 years later, with 2 homeschool graduates and 1 more to go. No matter where you are in your homeschool journey, Little by Little Homeschool seeks to empower and encourage you to carry out this amazing calling of home educating and discipling your children. It's not always easy, but I'm here to walk alongside you because I promise that these years are worth all of your effort. Grab that load of laundry that needs folded, settle in at a kitchen sink to wash those dishes, or tie up those walking sneakers, and let's get into today's topic. As of today, the date that this episode releases, there is less than 2 months until Little by Little Homeschool Conference. If you have not gotten your ticket, go ahead and do so that we know that you're coming and we can plan for you to come and we can pray over you before you get there and as you make your plans and the arrangements that you need to do to be able to get away for the day. But if you can't come, maybe you live too far away. I know I've heard from numerous moms saying, oh, I want to come, but I'm having a baby, literally the week before. And I'm like, okay, Lord willing, we'll see you in 2026. But right now we are planning for 2025. Whitney Newby and Zan Tyler are planning for their sharing with you and encouragement. And I just know that you are just going to love meeting them and being encouraged by them, but also the other moms that are coming. But if you can't come, can I encourage you to forward the information about the conference on to a friend? To be honest, word of mouth is the best way to help spread the news about Little by Little Homeschool Conference on Saturday, October 18th in Syracuse, New York. You can get more information at the link that will be in the show notes, but littlebylittlehomeschool.com/conference. I have not kept it a secret at all that I've shared often about how I burned out, and I burned out pretty hard beginning in about, I think it was year 3 of homeschooling. And by mid-year, I was a crazy lady for, we'll say, for a little while, and then I'd kind of snap out of it for the end of the year. But this kept happening for a few years. And it was partly, yes, because we lived in an area where there was a long winter and it was cold and we were cooped up inside more than we wanted to be. But it was also because of my ignorance. I didn't know that there were other options. I didn't know that I had so much control over my homeschool and how things would go in the beginning as well as in the middle. And so today I'm going to share with you the things that I wish that I knew that would have helped me to create a flexible plan that didn't fall apart mid-year, that I didn't set myself up in the beginning of the homeschool year for crazy town, for crazy lady, and partly for failure, and for my kids looking at me like, what is going on here? And for me then mid-year feeling like a bad mom, feeling like I was a failure, or like I let my kids down. And there are some things that you can do and that I'm going to do as well at the beginning of this homeschool year so that we don't get ourselves into that same situation come mid-year. First, let's define when is mid-year, because we know this is the beginning of the homeschool year. So when is mid-year? Technically, most of us reach mid-year in about January-ish. But the Christmas break, whether you take maybe just a week off or you take that entire month off, it often feels like that is mid-year. But if you live in a state where you have to count days, or you say you count days, typically that happens in about January, even with a bit of a Christmas break. But because of Christmas break, we often kind of think that that's mid-year. But guess what? There's something that goes on there. When we have that break from Christmas break, we have that break from homeschool for the Christmas break. Oftentimes we get back into it feeling refreshed. We had some joy and some fun with our family and celebrating the birth of Jesus and just all that kind of went along with that. But then often we feel like, okay, the kids are getting a little bit out of control. Let's get back into our routine. Let's restore some order and some type of rhythm to our days. And you're ready to get back into it. So I'm going to kind of define mid-year as maybe January/February. And it could maybe possibly even be March if you live in a cold environment, a place that winter is still really thriving at that time. So how can you be intentional now so that your future self of mid-year, whenever that is, doesn't burn out, doesn't end up as a crazy lady, doesn't end up in that thought process of being a bad mom and acting in a way that, yes, is probably most likely sinful. I know that my attitude and my actions and my words were definitely sinful. And it was because I had not set myself up in ways that I could continue. I just had set myself up in a way that it just was not sustainable. I had too many goals and too many things that we were doing that wasn't realistic for an actual human being to do. I'm going to share with you some ideas. You can use all of these ideas, or you can just pick some of them that are going to work for you. So let me say, I've got numbers 1 through 7. That's what I have. So you can go ahead and write those down, and maybe there'll be little tidbits of information and stuff in between there. It might end up being 10, but at least 7. The first one is to keep the big, and I wrote big in capital letters. Capital B, capital I, capital G. Keep that big picture in mind. This right now is 1 year. Even if you have brought kids home in the high school years and you only, we'll say in air quotes only, it's not only, this is even if you have them at home for just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that is amazing. That is 1, 2, 3 years that you didn't have. Or maybe you are just starting off and your plan is to homeschool all the way through from the preschool age all the way through high school. But keep that, no matter what your big picture is, in capital letters big, keep that in mind. This is simply 1 year. It is a part of multiple years. Your job, your task, is to be faithful to what you feel like God has called your family and for you as a homeschool mom to focus on this year. He's not going to call you to do something that, like I set myself up, that one human being cannot do. And maybe you feel led to do a lot of different subjects and to cover a lot of topics. Maybe you hit those more broad than as deeply as you maybe wish that you could. Or maybe you're saying, you know what, I feel like there's just a couple of topics, subjects, curriculum, activities, whatever it is, that I feel like God wants us to dive in deep and really dig in this year. Then that's what He's calling you to do. Keep that big picture. What are the goals? What is your vision? What are you being called to do just this homeschool year? Number 2, consider, to keep things flexible so that you don't burn out, consider planning in blocks, or you might want to use the term semesters, to keep things fresh. What do I mean about blocks? You could set up a block. You could do a month at a time. You could say for September, we're going to do this. October, we're going to do this. November, we're going to do this. And you could, there's so many different options. I'm just going to throw out a bunch of different things. And then you like, oh, okay, maybe that might work. Let's just think about September, October, November. We're not going to consider Christmas and whether you do Christmas school and all that stuff. Let's just consider those 3 months. You might consider doing some type of unit study or some type of specific study for September, for something different for October, something different for November. Now, some of you are like, that's way too much. I know. Hold on. I'll get to you too. Underneath all of that, you're still working on math and language arts. And so the language arts, you're going to consider your penmanship and or writing and your grammar and your reading, and then math. And so you just focus on those things underneath. That's the foundation. And then you just do maybe a various different topics, one for September, one for October, one for November. Some of you are saying that's too much. You might say, we're going to do one topic and we are going to go a little bit more broad, or a couple topics, and we're going to do them September, October, and November, that same set of subjects or topics. Then that's what you're going to do. You might say, so for here might be an example of something broad. You might say, we're really going to focus on science. It's a great time of the year to get outside and do some hands-on environmental type of science. And so September, October, November, you really focus in on that. And then you might say, January, February, March, we're really going to go hard with history. It's cold. There are some museums and some places that we can go to and take some field trips in the winter. Whereas in the fall, you're like, I'd rather do stuff outside and do science and nature walks. And then in the winter, we'll focus on history. So those are some options. Hopefully I'm getting your creative juices going here and you're thinking of some different ideas. But you can think of in terms of blocks and semesters so that things are fresh and that you're not feeling burned out and you know that something new is maybe coming. Or even if that feels like too much, you might even want to consider something like year-round homeschooling. I did do an episode all about year-round homeschooling, and I swear that it is what saved me. That is what got me out of that burnout mode. And so I will link that in the show notes for you. So consider that as an option as well. Number 3, evaluate at your Christmas break. We were just mentioning that a little bit earlier about how that kind of can feel like mid-year. So evaluate at Christmas break. How are things going? Did you try doing those blocks and semesters? Did it go well? Did it not go well? Are you feeling like you didn't do that? You might say, you know what? Maybe we'll try that out here for the winter in January, February, March and see how that goes to do blocks of time and blocks of topics and subjects. There was a resource, I think it was probably 2 Christmas breaks ago, maybe, that I had put out, and it was all about renewing and refreshing your homeschool for the new year. And it was such a big hit. If you got that resource, I want to encourage you that go ahead and use that. You can use that now, even at the beginning of a homeschool year. But your homeschool blueprint is basically that, but bulked out with more information and with something that will focus on the entire homeschool year. So if you are saying, I'd like to do a really good evaluation of my homeschool, even right now at the beginning of the homeschool year, and get us on the right track, I'm going to encourage you to go to your homeschool blueprint. It's at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. And that is going to be the bulked out version of what I had put out for you guys a couple Christmases ago. But plan to evaluate at Christmas break. Maybe that includes a couple of hours. Maybe you're able to get away, go to a coffee shop, or you pop in one of those Christmas movies that you didn't get to before Christmas and the kids watch the movie and you just go into another room and you sit there and kind of evaluate. Maybe it's in the evening after the kids are in bed. But evaluate how things have gone so that you can make adjustments. So put that on your calendar. I highly recommend, whether you have a paper calendar or a digital calendar, put it on your calendar that week after Christmas, in between then and New Year's, to go ahead and spend some time just evaluating and thinking about how the year has gone. Number 4, you have to be flexible. You and your kids, your homeschool, your family, you decide the pace of your homeschool, not the curriculum. When we become so rigid and we say, okay, we have to do a math lesson every single day because there's 180 lessons in here and I have to get through 180 lessons, you're going to burn out. Your kids are definitely going to burn out as well. And you're not allowing yourself some flexibility and deciding the pace of your curriculum. There were some years that I was like, we are not going to get all the way through this, and that is okay. We would do a lesson on the one day, and then they would maybe do a day or two of just review, where I didn't have to do a lesson, and I kind of staggered it, where I would do lessons with different kids on different days, because I know that math can sometimes take up a big chunk of your day, and so that's kind of what had worked for me, so that I wasn't spending myself personally 2 hours doing math, and the kids were definitely not spending that much time either. But keep in mind that you and your kids decide your pace, not your curriculum. So also, in the being flexible, realizing like, okay, I have to be flexible. You might say, you know what? We might have to drop the co-op. It's too much. Maybe you're having a baby, or just in general, it was just too much going on. Or you're looking at the subjects and you're like, I don't know that it's really worth all of the effort to get there and do that. Maybe there was some drama there. Maybe you're just like, you know what? I'd like just a quieter year and not have to be somewhere once a week. Maybe it is adding a co-op, the opposite of that. Maybe it's adding more field trips, or maybe you were out of the house too much and you're saying we need to be home more. But you yourself have to become more flexible and say, what is going to be best and serve my family for this year? So remember that big picture? Yes, there's that big picture. It's okay if you don't do a co-op one year. It's okay, actually, if you never do a co-op. But it's okay to take a step back and to take a break this year. Number 5, I want to encourage you to take a look at reverse planning. Episode 385 goes into the details of that, and I will link that as well in the show notes, so you can go and listen to that one if you're curious about reverse planning. But reverse planning really can help you to be flexible. It is a way of planning throughout the year that has saved a lot of homeschool moms from becoming burned out and from mid-year saying, this is not working, I'm ready to throw the towel in, and has helped them to continue to keep going. So go listen to that episode. 2 more to go. Number 6 is to loop. I'm going to put in air quotes schedule because we don't always like to say schedule, but to loop your subjects. There are a lot of different ways to do looping. I'm just going to give you a couple of them. One time that you can do some looping is with your morning time or your family learning. Maybe you have a whole list or a stack. You might have 6 different topics or subjects that you want to cover. And to be honest, your kids are going to get burned out. And it might take you a couple of hours to be able to get through all of those. And it's just not going to work. You're like, this isn't going to work. But you might say, during that time, it is important for us to do some Bible reading and to do maybe some character building. So those are going to be our 2 solids. And we're going to do those each morning time. And then we're going to switch. Sometimes we're going to do maybe poetry. Sometimes we're going to do history. Sometimes we're going to do science. It can be whatever books, whatever activities. Maybe one of those loops is a game day. It can be what you want it to be. And so in a morning time, you can just loop. You could loop all of them. You could have 4 different topics or subjects you want to do, and you just kind of, how far do we get? And then the next day, you just pick up where you left off. You can also just loop in general. Again, I highly recommend still making sure that you get your language arts and you get your math done every day, but that you loop the rest of the days. Now, in school, you probably had this as well. You have maybe day 1. So they kind of do a little bit of a loop, right? Because they don't always meet for Monday through Friday every single week of the year. There could be a teacher in service. There could be a holiday. So day 1, they might have music. Day 2, they have art. Day 3 is gym. And I don't know what the rest, but whatever those are. So that's basically looping. And so when you just pick up back the next day, because maybe if you say every single Tuesday, we are going to do a certain subject or something together. And consistently, one week you have dentist appointments. The next week the kids are sick. The next week grandma and grandpa stop by unexpectedly. And so then you never get to that Tuesday. But if you have it on a loop, you'll just get to it the next day that you do your homeschool. Number 7 and final is that, I know I just mentioned school, so this is going to be like, okay, now you're mentioning not to be like that, but you are not a school who has to keep up a certain pace. Even the homeschool states that have strict regulations allow for each child's learning and their own pace. To remain flexible is that we have to realize that we are educating to the child and children in front of us, not to some type of numbers, not to some type of metric, not to some type of what your child needs to know in X grade. We are educating the children right in front of us. And if that means slowing down, then we slow down. If that means speeding up, then we speed up. That is how you will keep yourself from getting burned out. That's going to help you keep yourself from mid-year saying, I can't maintain this pace, because guess what? You're maintaining the pace that is good for you and your family for this year. Not necessarily some plan that is in a curriculum that tells you what to do every single day. Now, I'm not against those. If those help you, then do that. But understand that if a day comes up and it's just not going how you wanted it to go, it's okay. It's kind of like looping. Just move it to the next day. Your kids will be fine. I absolutely assure you and promise you. But just remember that you are not a school that is trying to maintain standards, that is trying to get certain test scores because they want to maintain funding so that they can continue on. That's what they do. You're not like that. You're not trying to maintain a certain standard. Now, yes, some of the homeschool regulations, like when we have to do testing, they have to be in a certain percentile. If you are doing what you need to do with your kids, they will be in that certain percentile and above, and oftentimes way above. Before we close out, I want to throw one more reminder out to you that if you are interested in attending Little by Little Homeschool Conference, to grab your ticket at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/conference. All the details are there, speakers, the schedule, how the day is going to go, and it's just going to be an amazing day. We are having a lot of fun behind the scenes, getting things planned, and we cannot wait to meet you there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it was just what you needed to hear, would you do me a favor and share it with a friend? And if you would like to connect more, social media links and more are in the show notes just for you. I promise to see you back here real soon.